blossoms, blooms, and buds. I'm Rosebud Reads, and welcome to my very bright book garden. I am super excited about some of the changes I've made to the background. I've updated it for Valentine's Day, but I think you can see something a little different, which I'm very excited about. Hello, Chichi Kiki, and welcome to the third live stream of book 4 of Thousand Autumns. How are you doing today? I hope good. I am on like the last day of being sick, so my voice is still a little funky, but it's much better. Thank you. I decided I wanted something a little fun. I didn't want the top light back on, but I wanted something a little fancy. But thank you. How you doing today, Truffle? Finished 300 Years of Longing, Volume 1. Ooh, how was it? I'm excited to hear. Thank you. I am very excited about the lights. I set them up last night, and I managed to run to the dollar store today to get kind of the little candles. It was very good. Ooh, I'm looking forward to it. You need volume 2 now. No, I feel that. That's how I felt about The Wife Comes First. It was like, I'm ready. Bring it on. No, but I'm very excited, and I'm super happy with how the lights turned out. I kind of have a little bit more I might put up for Valentine's Day. I was making a garland, but I didn't have time to finish it, so it might be there next time. We'll see. It might be too much, so I might not put it up, but I like what's up so far. No. Oh yeah, the rest of the other stuff. So I do not own Thousand Autumns. It belongs to the author as well as Seven Seas Entertainment. I am not sponsored, unfortunately. I do this for fun. The only thing I own is the physical copy of the book over there and my time. And sometimes not even that. But this is a chill stream. That means that I will be chatting with the chat as I have been. I'll be chatting with the book, and I will sometimes chat with myself. If that's not really your flavor, you're pretty far in for it, but all good. It's not for everybody, but maybe stay. See, you might find out you enjoy it. You never know. If not, all good. Thanks for visiting. Oh, you still can't find it at the library? No, that's rough. No, that's rough. Like the manhwa you saw. They have a manhwa? The Wife Comes First as a manhwa, or are you talking about 300 Years of Longing? If they have a manhwa, I'm going to have to look that up. Ooh, they do. Okay, that gets written down. That might be a weekend thing. I have to take my car in for repair work. So I get to be up bright and early on 7 on a Saturday, dropping my car off for repairs because it's making some interesting noises and shaking. And I'm like, nope. Okay. Yeah. But at least they could squeeze me in. Oh goodness, I can't even remember the actual name of the site that I used because the old one I used to use was Manga Fox. That was a while ago. What's the one I use? Let me see. It's got some interesting ads that are not necessarily safe for work, but you kind of just scroll past them real fast and kind of ignore it and hope you don't get a virus. Let me see. Let's see. I use Bato, Bato. Yeah, definitely is part of the experience. BATO.TO, Bato To. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe they moved on to a new site. But that's where I usually go when I'm trying to find something. Yeah, Batoto is one of the ones with the moving ads. So maybe not that one for you, Truffle. Oh yeah, manga decks there. It's also an option. I've kind of been doing more Danmei more so than manga right now. I will definitely have to look for The Wife Comes First manhwa. So I really have enjoyed that book. Right? So long as it doesn't set off the antivirus programs, then we're good. No. Anybody else have anything that's they've got going on or that they're looking forward to this weekend? I mean, looking forward to fixing my car, even if I'm not so much looking forward to the process of it. I don't know. Maybe I'll definitely be reading, waiting for my car to be fixed. So maybe I'll see if I can finish the first of Copper Coins. Move on to number 2. That'd be nice. But yeah, nothing too crazy this weekend for me. Ooh, what wig / cosplay, Momar's Rover? Oh, yeah. I also am kind of nerding out a little bit about the hearts that I found where it says love always because it's red and white. So Wang Shin, subtle Wang Shin. I know it's not the blue, but I thought it was very fitting for a Danmei book channel. To get a Barnes and Noble trip in, you have some gift cards to use up. Ooh. Well, if you do manage to do that, you're gonna have to tell us what books you got. But yeah, that's about it. I'm trying to think of if I mean, I have usual things: get groceries for the week, clean the bathrooms. Super fun. I was gonna play board games with friends this weekend, but their family's sick, and I just got over this. So I was like, no, thank you. Ooh, Shen Yuan in Modern, Bingha. Ooh, that's gonna be so cool, Momar's Rover. Um, if you feel comfortable, no pressure. I would love to see it shared in the community page. But only if you feel comfortable with it. If you don't, no worries. But yes, that does sound like so much fun. Are you going to a convention for that or just because? Okay. They just read the new one. Oh, is it squeaky? I can reset it, Truffle. That actually might be my end. It's raining pretty hard here right now. So I can reset it real quick. All right, I'll reset it real quick. Okay. So I had my mom help me reset the modem. So that should be better, even if it takes like half a second. Oh, my camera keeps semi-focusing on the background because it's so amazing, and also I think because the candle lights are moving. So if I go out of focus now and again, it's okay. Is that better though? Oh, you were doing the guinea pig rescue. How are the guinea pigs, by the way? Yeah, no worries. I really don't mind doing it. I just need to know because it looks pretty clear on my end. So never feel afraid to just let me know if it's being laggy or fuzzy or anything of the sort. I do not mind resetting it. And let me double check. Yep. 100 today. A fun fact, we actually are almost halfway through the book already. This one only has 5 parts to it. So after next week, we will actually be on our last book in the series. So that's kind of crazy to me, because it feels like we've been doing this series for a while. But it'll be interesting to get to Peerless. It'll be interesting to get to Peerless after. Yeah, this one was shorter. Usually they're like six or 7. This one's 5. Yeah. Then I'll have to pick a new color. Maybe we'll do blue. We haven't done blue in a while. I actually have read very little of Peerless, so it will be new for me, which I'm excited about too. But let's go ahead and get started. Feng Xiao's dress-up arc. Ooh, I don't know about the dress-up arc, but I'm excited to learn about it. All right, so we're gonna start 1530. Well, at least he's enjoying himself. Okay, let me scooch the mic over. Okay, let me scooch the mic over. Oh, well, make sure it's actually flat. We shall grab this. Okay. You're done, my man. Yes. Okay. Well, whatever. Chapter 96, Fish Head Soup. Shen Qiao froze. Oh, wait. Almost forgot our summary from what happened last time. So, Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao were having a conversation at Bixia Sect, and had also been training, exchanging blows, and Shen Qiao made a nice compliment to Yan Wushi. So when my late master was still here, he once mentioned that sect leader Yan would be his equal within a few years. Sure enough, that has come true. This humble Taoist is grateful for your guidance. I have learned much. This was no empty flattery. He truly believed that Yan Wushi was stronger than he was, and thus his gratitude was sincere as well. He felt neither envy nor fury at his defeat. A win was a win, and a loss was a loss. There was no need for other emotions like resentment or anger. To Shen Qiao, things were just that simple. Yan Wushi thought that he could look at Shen Qiao's earnest expression hundreds of times without growing bored. In the past, he'd wanted this man to fight and curse the world, but now he adored his warm and gentle heart with the same fervency. He savored the other man's expressions again and again, and he smiled as he said, "Ah, Qiao, your words are far too distant considering our current relationship." What current relationship? Shen Qiao's mouth twitched as he forced himself once again to endure an irrelevant remark from Yan Wushi. If he couldn't stop himself from retorting, he knew that he'd be on the receiving end of another flood of twisted reasoning. He silently lambasted him with Zong Yuli several times, but said, "It's getting late. I should return to teach Shiwu and Qilang some swordplay." The two of them descended from the mountain summit, one after the other. The one in front walked with somewhat hurried steps, while the one behind was neither fast nor slow. A consistent distance of 5 paces remained between them, which also reflected their current relationship. The mood hovered between irreproachable and eerily ambiguous. The relationship was like a snapped lotus root that, on closer inspection, remained still linked by dangling threads, heavy with words and feelings unvoiced. When Shen Qiao returned to the grounds of Bixia Sect, he saw a man standing by his door. The person in question seemed to have also seen Shen Qiao walk towards him from afar, for a trace of a smile emerged on his cold, youthful countenance. It was an expression he hadn't even shown in front of Shao Qiying. "It's been a while, Shen Dao Xiang." So who do we think it is? Let's find out. No. Chapter 96. Fish Head Soup. Shen Qiao froze, but once he realized who the man was, a smile appeared on his face as well. "Li Gonzi, it's been some time. How have you been?" "I've been well." Li Qingyu wasn't the type to be free with his emotions. The unprecedented smile he'd revealed earlier was already terribly rare. It's one of the Confucianists. It was a restrained smile, one that quickly vanished on his face as it returned to its usual placid calm, but one could still sense the delight that hung about him. Shen Qiao, too, had a favorable impression of Li Qingyu. That day, though the other man had first shown him contempt, he'd lent Shen Qiao his sword and helped him defeat Duan Wenyang. It was clear that he actually possessed an emotional, willful personality. He just wasn't good with words, and thus came across as aloof. Cold outside, but warm inside. While I was in Chang'an, I could only fight my way out of the siege with Qilang thanks to the assistance of your Shixian's family. How is your Shixian, Su Qiao, doing right now? Li Qingyu nodded. He is quite well. After Huan sect forcibly assimilated Zhongnan sect, the Su family and a couple other disciples came to Qingchang Mountain. They're now safe and sound. Shen Qiao breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, that's good. It's unfortunate that Chang'an's current situation is rather dire. They probably won't be able to return for a while, will they?" Li Qingyu made a noise of agreement. How is the recovery of your martial arts been, Dao Xiang? If you have the time to spare, would you mind giving me some guidance with a spar? As someone obsessed with the sword, Shen Qiao looked at him like a precious blade that had yet to be unsheathed, concealing its sharp edge in wondrous surprises. Enthralled, he practically itched to examine and ponder every inch of Shen Qiao's. Sounded a little sus, a little suspicious. Uh-oh. How's the connection? I just had a moment where it was like, hey, connection's a little unstable. Is it still okay? It skipped a little. All right, let me know if it does that again. I told you that storm, it might be messing with some stuff, but is it okay now? Okay, I'll reset it. Hang on. And we're back. It might just be one of those streams tonight. All right. Faced with Li Qingyu's blazing gaze, Shen Qiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He'd only managed this one word when Yan Wushi answered for him. A Qiao is going to teach his disciples now. I'm afraid he doesn't have any time for you to waste. If you wish for guidance, my venerable self will advise you with the spar. Li Qingyu stared at him. Who are you? The corners of Yan Wushi's mouth twitched. If you can defeat this venerable one, I will give you my name myself. Li Qingyu's gaze shifted downward, and for a moment it stopped on the wooden sword he held in his hand. Then he suddenly shook his head. You don't often use a sword, and you possess a great jumble of skills. You aren't Shen Qiao's equal in the sword, and my internal energy is currently inferior to yours. There's no point in fighting. Yan Wushi's smile was warm and kind. My venerable self has never seen someone this self-aware. You are truly the first. Li Qingyu's gaze quickly sharpened. The two of them stared at each other for a moment, then he nodded. So you must be Huan Yue's sect leader Yan. Yan Wushi raised an eyebrow. You recognize this venerable one? Said Li Qingyu. Rumors say that Huan Yue's sect leader's egotism is unmatched in the world. Seeing you today, I can it's a well-deserved reputation. It was only their first meeting, and the two men were already at loggerheads. It was completely beyond Shen Qiao's expectations, and he said, Sect leader Yan, Li Gonzi is Bixia Sect's honored guest. He'd yet to finish when Yan Wushi laughed. Ha 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 ha. Then let my venerable self see just how capable this honored guest is. He extended his index finger, the movement as swift as lightning, yet also beautifully flawless. It was the renowned Spring Waters finger technique. Like how he immediately goes, oh, this cocky guy has to be Yan Wushi. I mean, is he wrong? Shen Qiao wanted to stop him, but it was already too late. There was a loud clang. Li Qingyu's Chushui had only left half its sheath, and that half a blade perfectly blocked Yan Wushi's index finger. After that moment of brief contact, Li Qingyu retreated 3 steps, and his sword was forced back into its sheath. Yan Wushi withdrew his hands and stood still, utterly motionless. The difference in strength was stark. But this was also within expectations. Li Qingyu was, without a doubt, a martial expert of the younger generation, so of course he wasn't Yan Wushi's match yet. He too had said it just now, that his internal energy was inferior to Yan Wushi's. It was Yan Wushi who'd forced his hand, demonstrating the malicious desire to bully a junior. Li Qingyu gripped his sword while cupping his hand, suppressing the surge of emotions within him. Sect leader Yan's internal energy is truly too imperious. I'm no match for it. His emphasis on internal energy meant he believed that Yan Wushi's victory was due to his powerful internal energy and not the strength of his finger technique. There's a picture. So here's our scene. I love how Shen Qiao is kind of freaking out a little. Like, wait! Wait! The little sweat drops. I love how this artist draws expressions. I agree, it's very funny. Yeah, I also do enjoy the action scenes. Momar's Rover. The loggerheads were about to explode. I feel like after Yan Wushi leaves, Bixia Sect is going to move immediately. They would if they could. Yan Wushi gave a sneering laugh. Before he could take further action, Shen Qiao stepped forward. Li Gonzi, the death of the Zongnong sect leader and the sect's forced assimilation into Hihuan's sect must have made quite a few waves in the Jianghu. As I wish to know more of the details, might Li Gonzi spare some time to elaborate on this? It's like, let me just cut in right here and dispel this before it really gets into something crazy. Li Qingyu tossed a glance at Yan Wushi, then he nodded. But of course. Shen Qiao gestured for him to enter the house. Please, come in. Then he said to Yan Wushi, would sect leader Yan also like to come? Or do you have other pressing matters? In Shen Qiao's view, Li Qingyu was here as a guest, yet Yan Wushi had provoked him for no reason whatsoever. This was considerably unacceptable. If a fight had broken out between the two, regardless of who was injured, Bixia Sect would suffer. Yan Wushi suddenly pursed his lips into a smile, and the frigid cold of his expression thawed, transforming into a warm spring breeze. You two can chat. I'm a bit hungry, so I'll head to the kitchens to see if there is something to eat. Bizarre, thought Shen Qiao. He couldn't predict Yan Wushi's temper, which often felt like sudden rainfall rolling in on a bright sunny day. He watched him walk away and couldn't help but shake his head, then headed inside the house to talk with Li Qingyu. Zongnan Sect's tragedy this time had caused it to crumple completely. The sons of wealthy aristocratic families like Zhang, Sun, Shang were fine. Even without a sect, they could still return home, but the ordinary disciples who completely relied on the sect were in much greater trouble. They were forced to take sides, either submit to Hihuan sect and become an external disciple, or oppose Hihuan sect and defect to another sect like Qingchang Mountain's Chunyang Monastery. And due to the sword trial conference being hosted there, dark undercurrents were now stirring beneath the peaceful surface. In truth, Chunyang Monastery had already become the third force in a power triangle with Hihuan sect and the Buddhist discipline. All the sects in the north had refused to attach themselves to Hihuan sect or the Buddhist sects that then sought out Chunyang Monastery for protection. In the south, the Yangtze River served as a barrier, and Linchuan Academy's position of power meant that, for the time being, Hihuan sect and the Buddhist discipline failed to make significant inroads there. It was the unknowingly planted willow that granted shade. Yipi Chen never expected this result, but as Chunyang Monastery had already planned to enter the secular world, he naturally had no reason to reject it. That they were hosting the sword trial conference was also proof of what the public wanted. However, in just over half a year, the world situation had undergone such an upheaval. It was truly lamentable. Heroes from all over will arrive at the sword trial conference, said Li Qingyu. So it's a good opportunity for everyone to exchange pointers and improve their swords. Shizun hopes that Dao Xiang can attend as well when the time comes to discuss the friendship between Taoists. If I count Qilang, I'll have accepted 2 disciples, said Shen Qiao. They've just begun their apprenticeship, so at this time, stabilizing their foundations is of utmost importance. If I'm not here, I fear that without any guidance, it'll be easy for them to go astray. Li Qingyu was unconcerned. When I was practicing as a child, Shizun only ever taught things once, and we were left to understand it on our own. The martial path has always been inseparable from natural talent. If someone has neither talent nor aptitude, they might as well live as a fisherman or woodcutter. That would be better than squandering their remaining years. It's a little harsh. Though these were callous words, they weren't without reason. But someone like Shen Qiao could never say such things, so he simply smiled. Let me consider this matter. I will return and discuss this with them, then make my decision. Li Qingyu nodded. Shen Qiao remembered something. Has Li Gonzi heard any news of Xuandu Mountain? I have not. The last news Shen Qiao knew of Yu Ai was that he'd participated in the group assault on Yan Wushi. Afterward, Shen Qiao never saw him again. Yu Ai was determined for Xuandu Mountain to stand at the top of the Taoist discipline once more, but his goal had gotten off to a rocky start from the beginning. First, Chunyang Monastery had stolen their momentum, then he'd conspired with the Gok Turks, hoping to use their strength to bolster Xuandu Mountains. But such calculations were based on wishful thinking that was unlikely to come true. In the end, it was like trying to draw a river with a bamboo basket and coming up empty. After the initial shock and sorrow of betrayal had passed, whenever Shen Qiao now thought about anything related to Xuandu Mountain, it seemed like a hazy, misty dreamscape. Beautiful, yet unreal. If you wish to return to Xuandu Mountain, I can ask Shizun to lend you a hand, Li Qingyu offered. Shen Qiao shook his head and laughed despite himself. Thank you, but only the things you obtain through your own abilities are likely to last long. That's a fair point. Li Qingyu saw that he had already made his decision, so he only nodded and spoke no more on the topic. The two of them conversed for a while. When it was nearly noon, one of the Bixia Sect disciples, Shao Yi Shu, came and knocked on the door. Li Shishu, the sect leader is currently discussing an important matter with our Shifu. And she specifically told this disciple to come and invite Li Shixian and Taoist Master Shen to the Flower Hall for lunch. Yeah, Shixian. I thought that was only for intersect disciples. Or like the same sect disciples, calling someone Shixian. Huh. Whether they should arrive or should attend the sword trial conference was a vital issue to Bixia Sect, so it was imperative for Shao Qiying to discuss it with Yue Kunchai. It made sense that she was unable to spare the time to personally receive Li Qingyu right now. Shou Yi Shui was 16 years old, at the age where she was lovely and delicate like a flower. Li Qingyu was around the same age, and they both used swords. In terms of background, they were very compatible as partners. If affections could blossom between them, it'd make for a lovely story. Not gonna lie, that seems a little random. Though Yu Chen himself was not married, he'd never demanded for his disciples to do the same. Chunyang Monastery had almost no female disciples. If Li Qingyu chose not to marry for the rest of his life, he could focus on the sword, and that was fine. If he wished to find a wife and have children, Bixia Sect's female disciples were outstandingly beautiful, and there was no lack of choice either. As Shao Qiying had sent Shou Yishui to receive them, it was clear she felt the same way. They're allied sects, so maybe they consider all the disciples to be sex. I could see that. That would make a little more sense, Truffle. However, it seemed that Li Qingyu had no such thoughts, for he said, "Thank you for informing us, but since sect leader Shao won't be present, I won't be going either. Could you bring 2 meals for Shen Xiang and myself? Bring 2 meals for Shen Xiang and myself on the sword, so we can simply eat here." Clearly, Shou Yishui had never met someone so insensitive and unromantic before. She stared at him for a long while before she slowly said, "All right." Then she turned right around and left without looking back. The one who came to deliver the meals sometime later was not her, but Fan Yuan Bai. As a bystander, Shen Qiao could see things clearly. He saw that the young maiden had seemed interested in Li Qingyu, but it was obvious that Li Qingyu didn't feel the same. Of course, trying to instigate anything would be too awkward, so he pretended to have seen nothing. Yeah, poor girl. Today's chef was not the one from the foot of the mountain, so both the side dishes and soup tasted quite average. Shen Qiao ladled out half a bowl of the soup. He was halfway through before he realized that it was fish soup. Li Qingyu's personal name means green fish. And it looked like fish head soup. He looked at Li Qingyu, whose head was lowered as he drank. For some reason, Shen Qiao was suddenly hit with the feeling that this was terribly comical. He wanted to laugh, but also thought it'd be rather unkind, so he immediately shut the idea down. "This soup is quite good," said Li Qingyu. Shen Qiao gave a dry laugh. He didn't know quite how to respond and only said, "These vegetables are also quite fresh." As these words left his mouth, Yan Wushi's face abruptly flashed through his mind, but he repudiated it right away. Surely the great and lofty Huan Yue sect leader wouldn't do something so childish. Surely the sect leader wouldn't do something so childish. "Mister, here, have a spoonful of my soup in a hall full of disciples." Wouldn't do something so childish. Come on, Shen Qiao. You know better. Yan Wushi will go a long way for a practical joke. He really will. That is kind of funny, though, you have to admit. Shao Qiying's contemplation quickly came to an end. She decided to bring Fan Yuan Bai and Shou Yishui to Chunyang Monastery and attend the sword trial conference. Yue Kunchai would stay behind to oversee the matters of the sect. Shen Qiao had wanted to remain as well, but Shao Qiying herself suggested that Shen Qiao come with them. She dearly valued this friend with whom she'd weathered hardships. Currently, Bixia Sect was very weak, so it would be incredibly difficult for Shao Qiying to stand out on her own. She indeed needed Shen Qiao's help. Shen Qiao agreed. He assigned Shiwu and Yuan Song some homework and told them to train properly with Yue. Shen Qiao agreed. He assigned Shiwu and Yuan Song some homework and told them to train properly with Yue Kunchai. Yuan Song had grown up in a rich and powerful clan, so here on Mount Tai he was filled with curiosity and an insatiable desire to explore. Right now, he was in the phase where he could enjoy things for hours without ever getting bored. Shiwu was the Shixian, but he possessed a gentle personality, and he'd usually go along with Yuan Song. He'd only grown insistent when important matters arose. The two Marshall brothers got along very well, so Shen Qiao didn't worry about leaving them on their own. The group quickly finished packing and set out on their journey. I kind of love the fact that both Shiwu and Yuan Song are getting along. Like, because that could have gone anyway. But the fact that they actually kind of get along with each other and like each other, that's kind of cool. Okay. Okay. Next. 43. Yeah, really. Truly, I love that they're such good babies. They really are good babies. Such sweet boys. They're making me use my dog voice. Hello, baby. That's how I call my dog every time I come in the door. Hello, my baby. My wriggle boy. I feel like we all do silly baby voices with animals. I'm so guilty of that. Chapter 97. Reappearance in the Jianghu. The journey from Mount Tai to Qingchang Mountain was not a short one. In fact, it spanned almost half of the nation of Shou. If they wanted to arrive within half a month, they had to travel briskly. Fortunately, everyone, even the young maiden Shou Shiyu, literally me with my cat, right? Fortunately, everyone, even the young maiden Shou Yi Shui, had been on trips where they needed to travel through the night before. By making haste, they'd managed to pass Chang'an within 10 days and arrive in Hanshang. 5 days remained until the sword trial conference, allowing them to relax their pace somewhat and travel slower. I don't own any animals, but I have a couple of furry friends in the neighborhood. It's all good. They'd spent the entire journey thus far hurrying on horseback, and even the horses could scarcely take such a strenuous speed any longer. Now they could finally stop to catch their breath, to everyone's delight. Being younger, Fan Yuanbai and Shou Yi Shui were especially happy, and their faces shone with joy. Li Qingyu out. The news of the sword trial conference had already spread throughout the land. As they traveled, they saw many Jianghu warriors carrying swords. After entering Hanshang, these types only grew more numerous, with all kinds of people carrying all kinds of weapons. Places teeming with Jianghu members would, of course, also teem with Jianghu matters. As the saying went, a scholar disrupts the law with the pen, while a warrior flouts it with the sword. Many people who knew martial arts felt it gave them the right to look down upon the common people, leading them to arrogance and a sense of superiority, and their actions would grow more unscrupulous. Shen Qiao's party had already encountered 3 such conflicts on their trip. This time, they arrived early. The sun had just begun to rise as they entered the city, and the inn still had a fair number of empty rooms. There weren't many people in the hall on the first floor either. There's a couple of dogs around here who always want me to give them belly rubs and pets. Aww, that's so sweet. Shao Qiying and the others first booked their rooms, then took their seats. Yan Wushi was special, so almost everyone in the party kept a respectful distance from him. Shao Qiying feared that Huan Yue's sect leader, who was neither friend nor foe, and though she didn't want to offend him, she also didn't want to get too close. The Bixia Sect disciples, having suffered his torture, were even more terrified of him. None dared to provoke him. Shao Qiying and her 2 disciples, together with Li Qingyu, perfectly filled the table of 4, while Yan Wushi sat alone at another table surrounded by empty seats. Onlookers found the sight rather strange. Shen Qiao walked over and sat down across from him. Yan Wushi's face stretched into a smile. Qiao couldn't bear to see me all alone, so he specially came to sit at my table. The number of guests will only increase. Eventually, there won't be enough seats and they'll be forced to rush their customers. I just don't want to cause the innkeeper any trouble. What? I'm getting this error message and it's strange. I'm going to reload. That's weird. As I said, it's going to be one of those nights. Sorry, everyone. Okay. The number of guests will only increase. Eventually, there won't be enough seats and they'll be forced to rush their customers. I just don't want to cause the innkeeper any trouble. Yan Wushi found the words insincere and remained unbothered. He raised his hand to pour Shen Qiao a cup of freshly warmed wine. The innkeeper must have spent 3 lifetimes accumulating fortune to be blessed with a guest like you. For a moment, Shen Qiao felt that there was a deeper meaning to Yan Wushi's words, but after zoning out for a moment, he thought that he must have perceived wrongly. There was a deeper meaning to Yan Wushi's words, but after zoning out for a moment, he thought that he must have perceived wrongly. Once I finish my meal, I'll head out first, Yan Wushi told him. I won't be traveling with you anymore. Shen Qiao was a bit taken aback. I thought that you were traveling with us in order to meet with Yipi Chen at Chunyang Monastery. Even if Yipi Chen's martial abilities weren't good enough for number 1, it would still be a simple matter for him to rank within the top 3. It was indeed rather strange for Yan Wushi to see such an opportunity, yet not go and request a fight. Yan Wushi shook his head. I can meet with Yipi Chen at any time, but the chance to watch someone's downfall, that's not something that'll happen every day. Thanks, Truffle. There was an overpowering sense of schadenfreude within his tone, and one name immediately came to Shen Qiao's mind. Duo Yanshan? The bait has been laid for long enough, said Yan Wushi. It's time to reel in the net. How could my venerable self not watch when something this exciting is about to happen? You told me before that Yun Fuyi and Duo Yanshan were only keeping up a harmonious appearance, and that sooner or later they would begin taking action, said Shen Qiao. Yun Fuyi's influence within the Liu He Guild is still too weak, so she was forced to borrow the strength of the Huang family along with the Gok Turks, who are backing them and secretly execute her plans that way. Correct to this fire. Yan Wushi was all smiles. My Qiao is truly so clever. Du Yanshan is both deeply cunning and incredibly mistrustful. He won't allow those he doesn't trust to get close enough to hear his secrets. It's thanks to this prudence of his that the Liu He Guild was able to expand bit by bit over the years, becoming the dragon's head that dominates the water routes in both the north and south. Can you guess how I broke through these defenses to plant my spies within? Shen Qiao's brow furrowed. He thought for a moment, then said slowly, I cannot guess. Yan Wushi smiled. In truth, it was very simple. The Duo Yanshan is indeed prudent. The people close to him may not be. He has a personal servant who'd followed him for 8 years. The man is clever and capable, but there's also a woman he loves deeply. That woman's family demands money from her without end. Though she was unwilling to trouble her beloved, she also had no solution and suffered greatly. At that time, I had Bian Yan Mei send someone to help her resolve this issue, all while doing something else. You were able to control Duo Yanshan's servant through her. Yan Wushi shook his head and burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha! Ah, Qiao, you're too naive. Duo Yanshan's servant is clever and capable. So how could such a crude method work on him? Bian Mei simply used this matter to foster a favorable impression with that woman. He used a false identity, pretending that he was a distant relative who'd not contacted them for years. This way, he won the trust of that woman's family and is now able to move around as her distant cousin. That seems far too convoluted. Don't underestimate the power of family relations, said Yan Wushi. No one will believe your kindly intentions if you're an unrelated stranger. Adding an identity like that into the mix will always make them drop their guard, at least a little. Within a few interactions, this woman trusted this cousin of hers greatly. She even introduced him to Du Yanshan's servant. As he listened to Yan Wushi describe the steps he'd undertaken, all meticulously interlocked, Shen Qiao heaved a silent sigh. But man. His contemptuous extreme egotism had earned him countless enemies, sprouting as thickly as trees in a forest. In the end, 5 great martial artists had ambushed him, and he'd almost lost both his life and reputation. But nonetheless, his martial arts capabilities and sense of strategy were undeniable. According to what you just said, Yan Shen's servant is both intelligent and capable, said Shen Qiao. How could that older cousin win his trust? Yan Wushi sent him an unruffled smile. By offering him benefits. In this world, only common interests can bind people together, even more intimately than brothers and spouses. As that servant followed Zhu Yanshan, he must have witnessed many lavish events, dripping with decadence and extravagance. Yet he himself remained only a servant. Do you think that a clever and capable man would be satisfied seeing this? If the woman's cousin gave him a way to earn money, meaning he could own and manage his own businesses, wouldn't he eventually come to see that cousin as a close friend and ally? Understanding dawned on Shen Qiao. So you purposely chose someone who was shrewd and not someone honest and straightforward? Because you knew that he'd be dissatisfied with his current situation? Honest people have their own weaknesses, said Yan Wushi. Where can you find a perfect person who's perfect and flawless? Shen Qiao nodded. That's true. If you didn't possess such an exaggerated opinion of yourself back then, always looking down on others, Guangling San and Duo Shan would have never gotten that opportunity. Ooh! Ooh! Shen Qiao kind of snapping back. Love it. He was clearly mocking Yan Wushi, but he'd overlooked how shameless this man was. Yan Wushi simply gave a slow, dignified smile and said, You're wrong. That was a weakness of my past self, not my present self. You're wrong. That was a weakness of my past self, not my present self. Shen Qiao couldn't stop himself from laughing. Then this distinguished master's present weakness is a face that's thicker than Mount Tai's stones are wide. Though his countenance often held a warm and gentle smile, it was rare for him to laugh freely. It wasn't a loud laugh, but the corners of his lips couldn't help but stretch upward, and unceasingly so. Even his eyes were sparkling, like jade stones soaked in rainwater, vibrant and beautiful. All right, let's try this laugh. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to so look forward to not being sick so I can do these fun laughs again, because they're all just kind of pitiful. That's a strength, not a weakness. Yan Wushi was the type to act on whatever whims floated to mind. As soon as this notion emerged, his hand was already on Shen Qiao's. This venerable one's present weakness is you. Ooh, putting it out there. Shen Qiao shook his head, and the look on his face said that he'd just heard something even more hilarious. He wanted to pull back his hand, but Yan Wushi's grip was tight. Sect leader Yan, some tricks are tiresome if performed more than once. So why perform them again and again? No matter what a fool someone is, They surely won't fall into the same pit twice. Thank you, Annika. Within his words lay a trace of self-mockery, something that he perhaps didn't even realize himself. Do you remember the tale I told you last time? Yan Wushi's smile remained unchanged. His eyes stayed fixed on Shen Qiao, and he didn't release his hand either. Before this point, Shen Qiao's thoughts on their relationship had never strayed to improper paths. After a snake bite, a person would fear ropes for 10 years. After his experience of unrequited friendship, Shen Qiao had gained a deeper understanding of Yan Wushi's callousness. He knew this man's heart to be as hard as stone. Even if he demonstrated the utmost sincerity, it would never amount to more than wishful thinking, for it was near impossible to move this man. In truth, down in the depths of his heart, Shen Qiao no longer dared to believe him, for that memory was carved too deep. He was simply unable to trust this man again, in fear of repeating his past mistakes. However, at this moment, beneath that scorching gaze, Shen Qiao's heart gave a thump. He felt like prey being glared at by a predator, one that wouldn't give up until it caught its quarry. Just then, a loud voice came from a short distance away, diverting their attention. Innkeeper, there are clearly 2 empty seats there. Why did you say that you were full? Oh boy. You know shit's about to go down. Shen Qiao took the chance to pull his hand away. He looked around to realize that at some point, without his notice, the inn had filled up and the only empty seats left were at their table. As he was sitting across from Yan Wushi, the spots beside each of them remained open. People at this time were unaccustomed to sharing a table with strangers, and they generally wouldn't insist on sitting with people they didn't know. But some didn't mind, and secure in their martial abilities, they'd be confident that the other party wouldn't be able to refuse. This was often a source of disputes within the Jianghu. Here comes the bar fight. The innkeeper was obviously reluctant to see his place become a site for such a dispute. He quickly gave an apologetic smile and tried to explain, saying that if they waited a while, some guests would finish their meal and leave, freeing up some seats. But the loudmouth in question was unwilling to compromise, and his companions also looked like they weren't people to be trifled with. Not only had they noticed that only Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi's table held 2 empty seats, they also saw that Shen Qiao was dressed in Taoist robes with a kindly face that made him seem easy to push around. Meanwhile, Yan Wushi didn't even have a weapon. Both men looked like soft persimmons, easy to crush. If it had been 2 strong, strapping men with fierce expressions sitting there instead, they might not have dared to be so rash. I'm going to count this as an injustice to service workers because they're kind of being rude. So we're going to mark one down. They're being rude. Which brings our count to 5, 10, 15, 20, 22, and 1 justice for service workers. I've seen those people before. They're from Taohua Pier. Ever since Taohua Pier was absorbed into Bixia Sect, they've become swollen with pride, holding everyone else in contempt. Using Bixia Sect's banner, they've been running amok. Everyone fears Bixia Sect's reputation and is unwilling to offend them. No wonder they're strutting about like that, said someone from the table behind them. Just dogs that go around biting others because their master is powerful. Shh, careful that you don't talk yourself into trouble. Martially, they're quite strong. Last time, even Tianshen's Yujian Zi ended up humiliated at that hands. Huh? There was a sharp gasp of surprise. But as a martial expert, Tianshen's Yujian Zi was only a little below first rate. Right? How could they strut about like that otherwise? That loudmouth is Taohua Pier Master's younger brother. His moniker is the Steam Severing Saber. Oh, I've heard of him. The steam-severing saber, Diming. So it was him. Though the conversation from the table beside them wasn't loud, Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao still heard it. That loudmouth had already pushed aside the innkeeper, was now striding towards them. See? Told you there was about to be an injustice to the service workers. Fan Yuanbai and Shou Yi Shui were young and impetuous. So upon seeing this, they were about to rise and stop the man. Naturally, they had no interest in protecting Yan Wushi, but Shen Qiao was a good man, and he had done a great kindness to Bixia Sect. Steam serving. Yeah. It really is steam serving saber. Literally spelled like that. I don't know. Literally that, Truffle. It is definitely an interesting moniker. In the 6 months he had stayed on Mount Tai, his relationship with everyone there had only grown closer. He wasn't like Yan Wushi, who'd pass judgments whenever the whim came. Instead, he would amicably answer every question asked of him. Whenever he taught his disciples, he also let Fan Yuanbai and the others watch on the sidelines. All of this had greatly benefited Bixia Sect. Fan Yuanbai and the others all saw him as a teacher or an older brother, so they were naturally displeased to see someone else be so rude and disrespectful towards him. Right, okay then, right? In the end, Xiao Qiying was more experienced and reserved. She didn't move at all. Instead, she called out loudly, "Innkeeper, where is the mutton stew I ordered for table 6? Why haven't you delivered it to them yet? Huan Yue sect leader Yan and Taoist master Shen Qiao have been waiting for a long time." The moment those two names were spoken, especially the first of them, it was like a frigid wind had blown through the hall. Everyone froze. The loudmouth's foot stopped, frozen in midair and unable to move another inch. It's one way to stop a fight before it starts. By the way, badasses at table 105. Chapter 98. Entering Chuyang Monastery. The sheer power contained within the name Yan Wushi was clear from the reactions of everyone on the scene. Any one of the 5 experts who ambushed Yan Wushi would have been enough to crush anyone there, let alone Yan Wushi himself. Someone who'd gone through that kind of ambush and been declared dead only to reappear alive and kicking in front of everyone afterward. He'd practically become the kind of monster only heard of in legends. The innkeeper was a sharp man. When he saw how powerful that single sentence of Xiao Qiying's was, so much so that it had frozen everyone in the room, he rushed to nod and bow. "The slowly one forgot," he said, smiling. "I will tell the chief, the slowly one forgot," he said, smiling. "I will tell the chef to send it over right away. Please wait a moment, just a moment." Yan Wushi's fingers caressed the rim of his cup for a moment, but Shen Qiao reached over and held them down. He'd seen through his intentions with a glance. He'd done this to stop him. Though that person had wanted to steal their seats, he hadn't done any real harm in the end. If Yan Wushi attacked, the man would certainly be injured, if not killed. Then his companions would want revenge. As they needed to hurry along their way, why seek out trouble for themselves? Yan Wushi gleaned these notions from Shen Qiao's eyes, and he gave a lazy smile. "I'll spare him this time, for your sake." Earlier, he'd yet to finish what he was saying when that loudmouth impudently interrupted him, and so when he'd been stroking his cup, he really had possessed murderous intentions. But now he'd changed his mind. He sent the cup flying with a feather-light touch, and it buried itself right before Diming's foot, which was still the moment he'd heard Yan Wushi's name. He didn't move again, and his face was pale and bloodless. The sect leader Yan, my younger brother, is young and ignorant as well as rude and reckless. We beg you to forgive his offenses. Yan Wushi sat completely motionless, calm and composed. Just this was enough that no one doubted his identity. It would take great courage to impersonate the Huan Yue sect leader. After all, few people in the world could have the guts to offend practically every single major sect as he did, all while those offended sects were unable to do anything to him. When everyone else saw Deming's bearded face described with the words young and arrogant, they all fought to restrain their laughter. Young and ignorant, Yan Wushi repeated the description, his tone meaningful. But this venerable one sees a big burly man. Is he mentally lacking, perhaps? Not right in the head? Immediately there were people who couldn't hold back their laughter. What did you say? Deming was about to explode, but his older brother sealed his acupoints and grabbed his shoulders, stopping him from moving. Then he smiled apologetically at Yan Wushi. That's right. My little brother is indeed mentally ill. Sect leader Yan is a magnanimous man. Please do not sing to his level. This man was the Taohua peer master who'd submitted to Yihuan sect. They'd been flourishing in the Jianghu of late, but he still knew whom he could and couldn't afford to trifle with. Right now, it looked like Yihuan sect had suppressed Huan Yue sect, crushed what momentum they had, and greatly diminished Huan Yue sect's power within the demonic discipline. But a starving camel sect crushed what momentum they had, and greatly diminished Huan Yue sect's power within the demonic discipline. But a starving camel was still larger than a horse. If they angered Yan Wushi, never mind whether or not Yihuan sect would actually step up to help the two brothers, they'd first have to pay with their humble lives today. Right? The panic here is real for this guy. He's like, my brother's a dumbass. Please don't kill us. You're very scary. Haha, bye. Yan Wushi appeared to have seen through his thoughts. He gave a small smile, and the Taohua peer master instantly felt his hair stand on end. Since he has mental problems, he should stay home properly instead of running amok outside and offending others in your stead. With him like this, you must be exhausted. The corners of the peer master's mouth twitched, but he was forced to agree. Haha, sect leader Yan is right. This one will discipline him greatly once we get back and command him to reflect on himself. He's right. This one will discipline him greatly once we get back and command him to reflect on himself. Be sure to not let him out so carelessly again. Now that he'd finished speaking, he was terrified that Yan Wushi might change his mind. He ignored the way his brother was practically boring a hole through him with his stare and quickly dragged the man away. They rolled in like fire or wind, rash and reckless, and only a moment later they were fleeing in disarray. The sheer contrast caused everyone on the scene to glance at each other. Shen Qiao shook his head. In truth, few people had noticed that when Yan Wushi had sent the cup flying, a tiny shard of porcelain had broken off, which struck right at one of Deming's acupoints. The location was so tricky, they probably wouldn't be able to unseal it themselves. Perhaps they'd even have to return to look for Yan Wushi. If they returned to look for you, would you actually unseal the acupoint for them? Shen Qiao asked. Why do something so excessive? Yan Wushi smiled. They won't look for me. They'll go crying. They'll go crying to Yihuan sect. That way, won't it save me the trouble of searching for them? Right after saying this, he rose from his seat. Before everyone else could regain their senses, Yan Wushi had already gracefully slipped away. They all assumed that he'd gone to chase after that group from Taohua Pier, and they couldn't help but lament over their misfortune. Why did that group choose to offend this fiend of all people? Despite this, due to the arrogant impression Deming had left on everyone, some were secretly pleased. After the meal, the youthful Fan Yuanbai and Shou Yi Shui felt somewhat restless. The two informed Xiao Qiying that they were going to go out on a stroll together. Xiao Yi Shui also invited Li Qingyu, only to unexpectedly receive a cold rejection. Unexpectedly? He totally shot her down before. Why would she be surprised? He said he wanted to train in his house, and Shou Yi Shui found herself embarrassed. Unable to let go of her pride for the time being, she left with a sullen expression. I mean, power to her, like, for shooting her shot, but, like, girl's already struck out once. Like, not even subtly struck out. Like, he was very clear. Xiao Qiying hadn't known of Yan Wushi's plans. When she saw that he didn't return, she couldn't help her confusion. Where did sect leader Yan go? He has other matters to attend to, said Shen Qiao. He won't be traveling with us anymore. Xiao Qiying nodded. Her heart was already heavy with worries, so she didn't have the mind to ask further. Though Hehuan sect and the Buddhist discipline were rather influential these days, most sects were unwilling to associate themselves with either faction. Hehuan sect had a terrible reputation, and though the Buddhist sects had Buddhist master Shu Ting and the Shao dynasty standing behind them, the Taoist sects, especially major ones like Chunyang Monastery, could never seek influence and connections through them. Thus, the Sword Trial Conference was incredibly timely. As soon as they heard the news, many people hurried there from all over. A fair number of rising stars wanted to use this chance to make a name for themselves. Meanwhile, the various sect leaders, being more experienced and reserved, were considering forming an alliance with Chunyang Monastery to avoid the instant annihilation Zhongnan sect had suffered. The Bixia Sect disciples, thank the gods! Having endured this tragic crisis, Bixia Sect had fallen greatly in strength, and they were currently very weak. Xiao Qiying didn't aspire to crush everyone present, but she'd been troubled by the lack of talent at the sect for a while. Hence, she hoped to put on a stunning performance at the Sword Trial Conference and give Bixia Sect's reputation. They'd need to consider and discuss the matter further. Fan Yuanbai and Shou Yi Shui were only average martial artists. This was easy to see by simply contrasting them to Li Qingyu. He was around the same age they were, yet he'd already entered the ranks of first-rate martial artists. Given some time, he was sure to achieve great things. Xiao Qiying couldn't help but envy Yi Puchen's good fortune once more. As a sect with some amount of history, Bixia Sect didn't lack for profound martial arts techniques. What they lacked was workable talent capable of comprehending such profound martial arts. Another day flashed by as Xiao Qiying remained inundated by thoughts and concerns. Early the next morning, everyone washed up, headed downstairs to eat, and then set off for Qingchang Mountain. This time, they didn't make any further stops during their journey, but arrived at Qingchang Town at the base of Qingchang Mountain in one push. The town was already packed full of martial artists on account of the Sword Trial Conference. Chunyang Monastery had sent people to Qingchang Town to wait to receive them. Upon seeing guests, they asked for sect and background and entered it into the registry before escorting them up the mountain, group by group. But there were simply too many people. The scale was beyond their expectations. Many people were forced to line up outside the mountain gates to wait their gate, then rapped his sheath against the desk to alert the person sitting there, hunched over and writing. The man raised his head, then gasped and quickly stood. Li Shidi, you've returned! It wasn't just him. The nearby Chunyang Monastery disciples responsible for receiving guests all walked over to greet Li Qingyu. Li Qingyu cupped his hands. Qiao Shixian, is Shizun on the mountain? He is, said Xiao Shixian. The representatives from Linchuan Academy and Kuaji Commandery's Wang family have both arrived. The abbot is currently entertaining them himself. Li Qingyu nodded. Without another word, he led their party right through the mountain gates. Xiao Shixian quickly stopped him. Li Shidi, who are the ones with you? Please report their sect. That way I can register them. This is my responsibility for Shidi's understanding. Li Qingyu had made great achievements in martial arts. Now, he was already implicitly a leader for Chunyang Monastery's younger generation, so even those two Shixian had to treat him with the utmost politeness. Unfortunately, while his martial prowess was incredible, his interpersonal skills were somewhat lacking. Li Qingyu gave a slight frown. They're the guests that Shizun asked me to bring. The clear implication was, there's no need for you to know any more than that. Shen Qiao could tell that he was about to upset them, so he spoke up first. This is Bixia Sect leader Xiao, and the two behind her are her disciples. This humble Taoist is Shen Qiao, his hands, his face seeming to glow. So, it's Taoist Master Shen! This one was disrespectful. Please enter Taoist Master Shen and our respected guests. I will send someone ahead to report to Shizun. Xiao Shixian. I can take Taoist Master Shen and the others up the mountain myself. Xiao Shixian smiled. Li Shidi may not know that Shizun left instructions earlier. If we were to see Taoist Master Shen and sect leader Xiao, we were to send someone to tell him so his esteemed self can personally greet them. You can take them there via the main path. They can admire the scenery on the way there. I'll send someone along the side path with the report to Shizun. Though he said Taoist Master Shen and sect leader Xiao, anyone could tell that his courtesies were entirely directed at Shen Qiao. But as Xiao Qiying possessed a calm and steady mentality, she felt no dissatisfaction at this. When he heard that it was Shizun's instructions, Li Qingyu naturally said no more. The people waiting in line saw how they'd been given priority for entering the mountain. After only a few words with Chunyang Monastery's disciples, they inevitably raised a clamor. We've been waiting here for a long time, so we're less important just because they have personal connections? Yes. If you don't understand even the courtesy of first come, first served, why is Chunyang Monastery even holding a sword trial conference? Xiao Shixian acted neither haughty nor apologetic. The good brother has misunderstood. Chunyang Monastery isn't holding the sword trial conference. We're simply lending our venue to Liu Li Palace so they can. We are also only here to assist with maintaining order. Since you've come to Qingchang Mountain, you must follow our rules. As for these guests just now, one of them is Xuandu Mountain's Taoist Master Shen, while another is Bixia Sect leader Xiao. The third is our own sect's Li Qingyu Shidi. Li Shidi is under Shizun's orders to personally take these honored guests up the mountain. If you have any dissatisfaction, please wait until you meet with my Shizun, then you can tell his esteemed self in person. Qingcheng Mountain's Li Qingyu. The name of this rising star had long been renowned throughout the land. First, he dueled the sect leader Yu Ai on Xuandu Mountain, and though he'd lost by a single move, his fame had exploded. Afterward, he wandered the Jianghu and fought first-rate experts like Duanwan Yang. Though he hadn't won all his battles, he was good enough to match his opponents. Oh, welcome, Esper Lady. I hope you had fun at your sewing group. Basically, the whole of this was that we were traveling to the sword trial conference. We almost had a bar brawl. It didn't happen. Yan Wushi went off to go see Hehuan Sect in fighting. And now we've arrived at the gates of Qingcheng Mountain, who is hosting the sword trial conference. And Shen Qiao and everybody is going to go meet the sect leader of Qingcheng Mountain. What'd you make in your sewing group? Okay. When one considered his age, they were incredible, shocking achievements. Nowadays, the name Li Qingyu resounded within the Jianghu, bright and clear, not much inferior to the world's top 10. Countless unmarried maidens and powerful Jianghu families all saw this young and promising disciple of Chuyang Monastery as an ideal future husband or son-in-law. Chubuchi cosplay. Nice! That's exciting. However, if the mention of Li Qingyu's name only made people gasp in understanding, it was Shen Qiao's name that shook their expressions entirely. First in disbelief, then some looked on with shining eyes, just like Xiao Shixian. Naturally, no one complained about Shen Qiao's party being given priority anymore. In the past half year or so, he'd done many things. Killed the man with a fetish for making human skin masks, Huo Shijing, and sent Kun Yi to the underworld with his sword on Mount Tai. After Yuan Xian had entrusted his orphan son to him, he also fought his way out of a heavy siege and brought Yuan Song to safety, even killing 2 elders from Hehuan Sect. As news of these events gradually spread, his current reputation had grown to be no less than Li Qingyu's. In fact, it was even greater than when he'd still been the sect leader of Xuannu Mountain. I'm glad it's going really well and you're really happy with it so far. Though there were also people who didn't trust these reports of Shen Qiao's abilities, thinking that most of the rumors had been exaggerated. Some of these incidents had happened in full view of the public, such as Shen Qiao fighting his way out of Chang'an, as well as him beating back Ui, the others, in the royal capital of Tuyuhun. There were quite a few witnesses to these events. Today, Hehuan sect was tremendously influential, and they'd crushed many sects and weaker wandering martial artists to the point of misery. As a result, everyone greatly revered and admired Shen Qiao, who had both the ability and courage to oppose Hehuan sect. Shen Qiao didn't know that during this time his fame had been rising day by day. The wretched image he'd had in the past had long since vanished completely. The Liu Li Palace had yet to release their rankings. Rumors that Shen Qiao's martial arts had recovered completely had been circulating the Jianghu for some time. It would be no great upset if he ascended to the top 10 rankings. As Yan Wushi constantly kept track of news from outside through mutual exchange rankings. As Yan Wushi constantly kept track of news from outside through mutual exchange of information, he naturally knew of these changes. But on Mount Tai, Shen Qiao had remained singularly focused on his own training and on teaching his disciples, thus isolating him from the dust of the mortal world. So, he naturally had no idea. That's kind of funny if you think about it. He has no idea and he doesn't really care, which is kind of great. Li Qingyu truly made for a rather poor guide. As he led Shen Qiao and the others up the mountain, he'd offered explanations of the scenery they saw, yet he lacked eloquence, and his explanations were also flat, dull, and without any embellishment whatsoever. The listeners couldn't help but wish to cover their ears. Just viewing the scenery by themselves would have made for better entertainment. It was one thing for Shen Qiao and Xiao Qiying, whose profound discipline and cultivation meant that they'd never forget their manners, but by the time they reached Chuyang Monastery, neither Shou Yi Shui nor Fan Yuanbai could hide their expressions of abject misery nor the sighs of relief that it was over. That's hilarious. A middle-aged man dressed in Taoist garb was standing in the monastery square in front of an incense burner. His hair was as black as ink, and he held a horsetail whisk in one hand. Behind him stood several disciples. It wasn't a small welcoming party. The man in front was, of course, Chunyang Abbot Yi Pi Chen. Ooh, he's kind of giving Lan Kai Ren vibes. And then the person behind is giving Shen Qiao vibes. I love how, like, if you look in the bottom, kind of how glazed their eyes are from walking up. Shen Qiao is, like, gazing into the distance. Okay. Shen Qiao swept a glance over them and recognized a familiar face behind Yi Pi Chen. Their expressions are perfect. They really are. Lin Chuan Academy's Zan Ziqian had also spotted Shen Qiao. He cupped his hands at him and smiled. So I guess that was Zan Ziqian. Shen Qiao inclined his head towards him, sending a small smile in greeting. Li Qingyu quickly came forward and gave the deepest of bows. Shizun, this disciple has returned. No need for courtesies, Mi Chen. This trip has been hard on you. Yi Pi Chen intimately called his beloved disciple by his courtesy name as he pulled him up. Then he walked over and cupped his hands at Shen Qiao and Shao Qiying. Taoist Master Shen and Sect Leader Shao have come a great distance, he said with a smile. You've graced our humble monastery with your brilliant presence. This humble Taoist is greatly honored and wishes to invite you inside for a chat. With Yi Pi Chen's current status, his coming out to receive them personally was an incredible show of respect. Yes, that's the guy that wanted to paint Shen Qiao's portrait. Shao Qiying had even been worried that he'd snub them. While her own personal reputation wasn't an issue, the reputation of Bixia Sect was. Now, as she witnessed Yi Pi Chen's exemplary conduct, the complete opposite of Li Qingyu's briskness, she couldn't help but silently praise his generosity. After everyone exchanged their pleasantries, Yi Pi Chen formally introduced Zan Ziqian to them. Zan Ziqian held a fairly high position within Lin Chuan Academy, but the sect's most favored disciple was Shai Xiang, who hadn't appeared this time. Ruyan Qihuai had only sent Zan Ziqian as his representative, which was enough to indicate a certain attitude. Yi Pi Chen led Shen Qiao and the others inside. There they saw that several others were already seated within. These are the second and third young masters of Quanji Commandery's Wang family, said Yi Pi Chen. The two young men didn't rise from their seats, but only raised their sleeves a little in greeting. They'd been speaking with Yi Pi Chen earlier, but when news came that Shen Qiao's group had arrived, only Zan Ziqian and Yi Pi Chen had left to welcome them. It was obvious that the Wang family found neither Bixia Sect nor Shen Qiao worthy of association. Their contempt was crystal clear. Okay. 131:45. Okay. Chapter 99. A storm approaches. At present, the Wang clan was no longer the Wang clan from back when the Wang Xian exploits filled the Book of Jin. As the dynasties changed, the powerful families would also rise and fall with the turning of years. Furthermore, the Quanji Commanderies Wang family, who were currently present, weren't direct descendants of the Wang clan, but only a branch family. At most, they could claim that they were related by blood. As their forefathers had entered the Jianghu long ago, though, they were fully accepted as one of the noble families of the Jianghu. They ran some businesses on the side and never involved themselves with the imperial court. Hence, they counted among the few powerful and influential families within the Jianghu. Though the Quanji Commanderies Wang clan was only a branch family, their blood relationship meant they too considered themselves as illustrious high-ranking family. They naturally thought a small sect like Bixia Sect beneath their attention. As they were guests, if they were unwilling to follow Yi Chen out in greeting, he couldn't force them. After exchanging greetings and taking their seats, Yi Chen first thanked Shen Qiao for helping the Su family when he'd been in Chang'an. Then he said to Shao Qiying, "When Bixia Sect's crisis took place, this humble Taoist was too far away to help and unable to send you timely aid. Thinking about it now, I am overcome with regret. I ask sect leader Shao not to blame us." Shao Qiying sighed. "Abbot Yi is too courteous. Bixia Sect's problems arose from within. We were fortunate enough to weather the crisis, but our numbers have greatly declined, and so we've fallen quite a distance. By contrast, I see that your honored sect is filled with talent, with elites springing forth. It truly fills this one with admiration and envy." Yi Chen stroked his beard. "Sect leader Shao need not worry so much. Looking at these two disciples of yours, if they're willing to train diligently, they will certainly achieve great things over time." Even if it was an offhanded comment said out of politeness, receiving praise from the master of Chunyang Monastery was enough to make both Shou Yi Shui and Fan Yuanbai ecstatic. When he saw that these pointless courtesies would continue, the Wang family's third son gave a light cough and interrupted them. "May I ask Abbot Yi if other sects will be attending the current sword trial conference?" "There are many sects who are attending the sword trial conference," said Yu Chen. "Is Wang Sun Gonzi searching for someone, or is he seeking a master to apprentice under?" Wang Sun Gonzi gave a dry laugh. "The abbot really knows how to joke around. Our Wang family possesses stacks upon stacks of martial arts manuals, so many that I can't even practice them all. How would I have the time to apprentice under a master? If other sect leaders will be attending, we wish to trouble Abbot Yi to introduce us so that we may make their acquaintance." Zhan Ziqian was decently well connected, but he wasn't an important figure in Linchuan Academy. He was only here as a messenger. Bixia Sect had suffered great losses, and Wang Sun Gonzi deemed them beneath him. As for Shen Qiao, though he'd made great martial progress, the two brothers had witnessed his duel on Bamboo Peak, and the scene of him falling from the cliff was etched deep into their memories. However high their hope for the sect leader of Xuandu Mountain had been before, their hopes had plummeted just as far down afterward. They'd long since lost their former admiration and reverence. Seeing him now, they only thought of him as mediocre and had no interest in associating with him. Their loss. Therefore, the Wang brothers had already excluded everyone present from their list of potential acquaintances. Everyone loved fame, and the people of Jianghu were no different. Many people attending the sword trial conference were focused on Liu Li Palace's rankings, but that wasn't their only motivation. I feel like some people are asking for a smacking. Well, they're really lucky that Yan Wushi wasn't there. Otherwise, they'd already be getting a smacking. Everyone loved fame, and the people of Jianghu were no different. Many people attending the sword trial conference were focused on Liu Li Palace's rankings, but that wasn't their only motivation. They also wanted to ally with Chunyang Monastery against the Buddhist discipline and Hehuan sect. Though the Wang family was from the Chen kingdom in the south, they had plenty of business dealings in the north as well, so they couldn't ignore Huan Sect's influence. As they considered themselves a great and noble clan, how could they work together with a faction like Huan Sect? The Wang brothers had arrived with the aim of looking into Chunyang Monastery. If any powerful sects were to cling to Chunyang Monastery this time, they must indeed be powerful and influential. The Wang family could consider allying with them as well. Otherwise, they could simply work together with Linshuan Academy. Why seek help from distant forces instead of nearby ones? Their disregard for the others at the scene was clear from that question. Xiao Qiying and Shen Qiao didn't mind, but Fan Yuanbai and Shou Yishui couldn't suppress their expressions of anger. Yi Pichen gave a slight smile and acted like he hadn't understood Wang Sang's insinuations. These are guests from other sects as well, and they're all being settled separately. Others still remain at the base of the mountain. It's no trouble if Wang San Gonzi wishes to see them. Later, I'll send one of my disciples to lead you there. We arranged for everyone's lodgings to be together. We don't discriminate based on status. Wang Erlong was somewhat disappointed. Yi Pichen's words implied that those much-anticipated martial arts masters of theirs wouldn't be coming. Wan Sanlong, refusing to give up, continued to pursue the matter. It's said that great heroes from all over traveled to the Sword Trial Conference 10 years ago, he said, and that it was a gathering of elites with 5 or 6 of the current top 10 among them. Could the Sword Trial Conference's influence have fallen to such an extent after only 9 years? Shou Yishui couldn't hide her mocking smile. Did this man really think that true martial experts were like cabbages, ready to be picked at their leisure? Being martial experts, they naturally had to put on the appropriate airs. Take the Huanyue sect leader, for example. Hadn't he disdained to attend such occasions and left halfway through their travels? Only someone as good-natured as Taoist Master Shen would be willing to help Bixia Sect stand out and accompany them to the conference. But who could have expected that someone would be too blind to recognize Mount Tai taking the pearls before him for fish eyes? It was truly too laughable. So Mount Tai is the most important and famous of China's 5 sacred mountains. So she's really praising Shen Qiao here. Wang Sanlong saw the sarcastic smile on her face and frowned. This lady's expression speaks of her mockery. Does she have any objections to what I said? I dare not, said Shou Yishui indifferently. I only thought I saw a monkey just now, one that's lived on a mountain its entire life. It's only ever seen the bit of sky above its own head, yet it believes that its mountain amounts to the entire world. Of course, Wang Sanlong picked up on that she was calling him short-sighted, and he immediately sneered. You've quite the clever tongue. I only hope that your skills are just as clever, lest you end up losing your life after offending someone with your nonsense. After he said this, his sleeve furled, sending his teacup flying from the table. The full cup of tea swept toward Shou Yishui, and not a single drop of liquid within spilled. Since Wang Sanlong dared to look down on Bixia Sect, it was obvious he was fairly capable himself. Upon seeing this move, even Yi Pichen revealed an expression of appreciation. Calling this man fairly capable would be selling him short. Within the younger generation, one could even call his skills astounding. Shou Yishui was shocked. Before the teacup had even reached her, she'd already involuntarily taken a step back. Xiao Qiying silently shook her head and was about to help, but Shen Qiao's hand stopped her. Although Shen Qiao's sitting posture remained unchanged, his other hand plucked his own cup off the table. He drank the contents, then tossed it outward, crashed right into Wang Sanlong's cup that was careening over. The 2 cups collided with the clatter, yet neither cracked. Oh, here. Hey, I got it. Um, Due to the tremors, the tea from the first cup spilled into Shen Qiao's, then both cups rebounded off each other and returned to the hands of the respected owners. That's cool. It all took place in the blink of an eye. Wang Sanlong's expression remained stunned as he caught his cup, as if in disbelief over what he'd just seen. Shen Qiao grabbed his own returning cup. After giving it a sniff, he put it down. It seems that Abbot Yi is impartial. The tea served to Wan Song Gonzi is the same as ours. Since that's the case, why are Wan Song Gonzi so enthusiastic in insisting we taste his tea? That move of Shen Qiao's was far more brilliant than Wang Sanlong's. Though it had appeared understated and effortless, this level of execution was impossible without profound internal energy and skill. That is some kung fu hustle shenanigans, right? In comparison, what Wang Sanlong had done with Xiao Yishui was like brandishing one's blade before Duke Guang. He'd completely overestimated himself. So Guang Yu was a general who served under Liu Bai before and during the Three Kingdoms period, renowned master of the blade. Having realized this, the Wang brothers no longer dared to look down on their fellow guests. Wang Sanlong's expression was feeble as he cupped his hands and said nothing. This could be considered his apology. Always a stronger person, always a higher sky. To think that Shen Qiao, someone they'd already deemed unworthy of ranking within the top 10, would still be an impassable mountain to them. Yi Chen looked on coolly. Seeing that the Wang clan's spirits had plummeted, he didn't speak more on it and simply smiled. Everyone has traveled a long distance today. I trust that you're all exhausted. Shall this humble Taoist send for someone to take you to your room so you can rest? The Wang brothers naturally had no objections, and Zan Ziqian nodded as well. Then we'll be troubling Abbot Yi. Once they left the hall, Li Qingyu turned to Shen Qiao and said, I live in a small building to the east. It's the one that has a nameplate with the character Li on the door. If Taoist Master Shen needs anything, feel free to come find me. Shen Qiao thanked him, then went with Zhao Qiying, following the Chunyang monastery disciples as they led them to their lodgings. Zhao Qiying purposely trailed behind by several steps, letting Fan Yuan by and the others walk in front. She then grabbed Shen Qiao and whispered into his ear. When I look back on the situation, Abbot Yi seemed like he wished to say something, but the Wang brothers interrupted him. Shen Qiao nodded. That indeed was the case. After all, he'd once led a sect as well. Abbot Yi personally coming out to greet them was partially to express his sincerity, but it also served as a prologue of sorts. He must have had important matters he wished to discuss with them. Zhao Qiying pondered to herself. In your opinion, do you think he wanted to discuss forming an alliance? Shen Qiao didn't answer the question, but instead he asked his own. If that's the case, how do you plan to respond? Zhao Qiying sighed. Right now, Yihuan's sect and the Buddhist discipline hold immense power. In Bixia Sect's current state, if they try to annex us like the Gok Turks did last time, we can only wait to be slaughtered. Forming an alliance might solve this problem. Guang Yu is also deified. Yeah. Only the Taoists are like scattered sand. It might be a good thing if we can unite the Taoist discipline. Zhao Qiying was silent for a moment. At this time, Abbot Yi might find it difficult to achieve his wish. The Sword Trial Conference has always been a grand event in the Jianghu, yet Lin Xuan Academy only sent a single disciple. The situation doesn't look too promising. Then she paused before continuing. Actually, if we're discussing martial skills and moral character, Taoist Master Shen might not be inferior to Abbot Yi. If you're willing to call for action, I would throw Bixia Sect's lot in with you without a second thought. Shen Qiao shook his head and couldn't help but laugh. I don't even have a sect beneath me right now. Even if you threw in your lot with me, I wouldn't be able to take you in. He thought that Xiao Qiying was joking, yet she earnestly said, How many people in the world can measure up to Taoist Master Shen, who traveled thousands of miles to fulfill a single promise? It's not only my Bixia Sect who is indebted to your kindness. How many of the people who've interacted with you could say they've never received your kindness? Even sect leader Yan, who draws no line between good and evil, who acts according to his whims, doesn't he show special regard to you and only you? Shen Qiao gave a strained smile. This special regard, I fear that's only because he wishes to toy with me. Xiao Qiying smiled slightly back at him. I think that may not be the case. As they conversed, they arrived at their lodgings. Their houses happened to be adjacent to each other, which made it easy to keep in contact. The two of them each entered their own residences and washed up. Shen Qiao had just finished washing his face when he heard a knock on his door. He thought that Xiao Qiying must still have things she wanted to talk about, but when he opened the door, he saw Zhan Ziqian standing outside. What are we calling it? Oh, special regard? Yeah. Has Taoist Master Shen been well? Zhan Qian said, cupping his hands. Shen Qiao turned sideways so he could enter. Please come in, Zhan Longjun. I'm ashamed to say this, said Zhan Ziqian. When I first saw Taoist Master Shen, I was immensely pleased. I even wanted to have a long chat with you and fathom my painting techniques. Unfortunately, my Shizen has ordered me to return as quickly as possible, so I could only come to say goodbye. Shen Qiao was shocked. That urgent? Isn't the sword trial conference only starting tomorrow? Zhan Ziqian gave a wry smile. It's because it starts tomorrow that I must leave today. At tomorrow's sword trial conference, I fear there will be a rain of blood. Even Chunying Monastery might not be able to save themselves, let alone any kind of alliance. An upright gentleman does not wait amid danger. I really don't wish to see Taoist Master Shen dragged into such matters, so I was wondering if you'd be willing to go to Linchuan Academy with me. Shizen would definitely welcome you, Taoist Master Shen. Shen Qiao could tell how grave he was and how serious his words were, but there seemed no rhyme or reason to him. He couldn't help but frown. Just what is going on? Imagine if we just stopped there. We've got one more chapter, but imagine. That'd be a little mean. One second. All right. 151. 45. Okay. Chapter 100. The Sword Trial Conference. Even though there was Shou in the north and Chen in the south, each with their own governments, the Jianghu wasn't split between north and south. After all, the world itself made no such delineations. It was one. Therefore, the violent expansion of Hehuan sect and the Buddhist discipline sent not only the northern sects into a panic, but had alarmed Linchuan Academy as well. The Sword Trial Conference naturally gave the various sects a fantastic opportunity to make contact and foster friendships. Linchuan Academy wanted to form an alliance, so they'd sent Zan Ziqian over to test the waters. If Yi Chen were willing to acknowledge Linchuan Academy as the head, the alliance would form as naturally as waters gathering in a canal. Then this union between Confucians and Taoists would have a great advantage in containing the soaring influence of Hehuan sect and the Buddhists. However, Zan Ziqian's trip hadn't gone smoothly. It had become clear that Yi Chen was unwilling to accept a subordinate role, so Zan Ziqian could only return empty-handed. Without the participation of the Confucian discipline, the Sword Trial Conference would indeed lose quite a bit of luster. Shen Qiao listened to the ins and outs of this tale, then shook his head. When everyone shares a common goal, does it matter who's in charge? Not to you, buddy, but a lot of people actually care. Zan Ziqian smiled and shook his head. Not everyone can be like Taoist Master Shen, caring little for hollow and material things. Now that Xuandu Mountain has joined the Gok Turks as their limbs, Chunyang Monastery can consider itself the pillar of the Taoist discipline. However, my sect, Linchuan Academy, is the head of the Confucian discipline. Taoism and Confucianism's differences lead them to vie for supremacy, like a battle between dragon and phoenix. In this case, the subordinate faction will fade into the background. Who wants to end up as a prop for someone else's reputation? Shen Qiao frowned, but did not speak. It was exactly as Zan Ziqian had said. Ruyan Qihuai and Yi Chen were both martial experts of the current generation. The weight attached to the positions of alliance leader wasn't insignificant. No matter who took the seat, the other one would grow uneasy. Worse still, they were both sect leaders and ones who represented Confucianism and Taoism respectively. Neither of them would rashly place their own sect in an inferior position where they'd be forced to follow someone else's lead. This wasn't only an issue of reputation, but related to the orthodoxy of the schools, their statuses, and the changes of such. I trust that Abbot Yi was unwilling to accept this. That's right, said Zan Ziqian. After Abbot Yi heard the reason behind my arrival, he gracefully refused the suggestion of forming an alliance. I believe my Shizun, too, has already expected such a conclusion. That's why he sent only me, and not my Shidi or anyone else. But Abbot Yi's desire to form an alliance against Hehuan sect and the Buddhist discipline isn't a secret. Sooner or later, their side will know. I fear that a storm may descend without warning at the Sword Trial Conference tomorrow. Though you may be a Taoist, you have no relationship with Chunyang Monastery, so why not come with me to Linchuan Academy as a guest? Ever since you paired with the Su family, my Shidi has held you in great esteem. Surely you'll be delighted to see your honored self again. Shen Qiao smiled. Thank you, Zan Xiang, for your kindness. However, this humble Taoist will remain here. Zan Ziqian was confused. Why? Everyone within the Taoist discipline is bound by a common cause, said Shen Qiao. A calamity wouldn't affect only Chunyang Monastery. If Hehuan sect annexes them, disaster won't be far from the other sects as well. Moreover, I already promised Bixia Sect that I'd help them during the Sword Trial Conference. Regret washed over Zan Ziqian's face. Then there's nothing to be done, he said. However, I fear that Abbot Yi's desire to promote an alliance this time will come to nothing. Currently, Chunyang Monastery is on the rise, and its scope and prestige are no worse than Xuandu Mountains, Shen Qiao pointed out. Logically speaking, quite a few people should wish to come and join them. That is the case, but everyone has different thoughts. Leaving myself aside, look at the Wang brothers, Taoist Master Shen. Abbot Yi personally invited them to the main hall, hoping to win them over, but they insist that they only came for the sword trial conference and refuse to say anything regarding an alliance. It's obvious that they see Chunyang Monastery as a lone hand trying to clap, unable to make any sound, and so they're only willing to watch from the sidelines. They won't allow themselves to be dragged into the vortex. Forming an alliance is easier said than done. He was a mild-mannered man, and though he was a disciple of Confucianism, he didn't hold any extreme positions. He even expressed regret for Chunyang Monastery's situation, as if he had already foreseen that an unceasing tempest would buffet the sword trial conference tomorrow, and that a bleak outcome awaited them at the end. The two of them sighed over this for a while before Zhen Ziqian again brought up painting. He invited Shen Qiao to visit Linchuan Academy another day, and Shen Qiao naturally accepted. Zhen Ziqian had only just left when the Su brothers came to visit, wanting to thank Shen Qiao for his assistance back in Chang'an. Though the entire Su clan had temporarily fled to Qingchang Mountain for their safety, they hadn't entirely abandoned their wealth and estates back in Chang'an. Once the time was ripe, they'd return once more. On top of this, many sects had also sent over visitation requests, wishing to meet with Shen Qiao. Shen Qiao was now beginning to realize that he was no longer that former sect leader, adrift with nothing to his name, whom everyone had derided. Somehow, the fact had crept up and taken him by surprise. When people brought up Shen Qiao now, they were inevitably talking about his battle in Chang'an. Since the sheer speed with which Yihuan sect was expanding these days was putting everyone on edge, Shen Qiao killing two of their elders made people discuss him with even more relish. It was a completely unexpected outcome to Shen Qiao, and he was caught between laughing and crying. Using the excuse that it was getting late, he gracefully rejected all these visitation requests. After he'd sent Su Wei and Su Qiao off, he meditated within the house, quietly waiting for morning to arrive. Not long after the dawn of the next day, someone brought over breakfast and some hot water for washing. Once he sorted everything out, Shen Qiao was about to leave when Shao Qiying showed up, already knocking on his door. They left for the main hall together. "Where are Fen, Yuan Bai, and the others?" asked Shen Qiao. "They've already gone to get their number plates," said Shao Qiying. "If all goes as expected, they should be in the first round." Shen Qiao had yet to fully grasp the rules of the sword trial conference, so he took this chance to ask about them. When we arrived yesterday, Chunyang Monastery's disciples were already registering everyone's surnames and sects. Today, they'll sort the participants according to order of arrival, then hand the list of names over to Liu Li Palace. Liu Li Palace will also conduct everyone's battle chronicles within the Jianghu, then group contestants of similar strengths together for the competition. If someone didn't mean to participate, they just need to tell Liu Li Palace beforehand. Their name will then be removed and replaced with someone else's. However, these rules only apply to regular disciples. Those like us usually won't end up on the list unless we specifically decide to enter and compete. Each person themselves might not have clear knowledge of their battle chronicles, said Shen Qiao. Liu Li Palace are so reclusive. How do they obtain this information? Shao Qiying smiled. I also wondered about that. I suppose they must have created a vague tier list based on information received from various other parties. Thoroughly determining the ranking is also one of the goals of the Sword Trial Conference. They say that Liu Li Palace possesses dazzling foresight. As long as they see someone's skills, they'll know how that person's martial arts compares in the Jianghu. Everyone who's seen it firsthand has been amazed. 10 years ago, I didn't have the chance to see it, so this time I definitely will, to broaden my horizons. As the two of them talked, they passed through Chunyang Monastery's backyard and arrived in the main hall. At this time, many people had already arrived. The main hall was different from the wide empty space they'd seen yesterday. now, it was covered with seating cushions and soft mats, all arranged beautifully. The doors of the main hall were open as well, so if one was seated inside the hall, they'd have a clear view of the matches outside, all without needing to be exposed to the sun or rain. That's nice. Yesterday, Zan Ziqian had taken his leave early, and the Wang brothers had shown little interest in a political alliance, so Shen Qiao and Xiao Qiying thought few people would be here today as well. They certainly never expected to see 7 to 8/10 of the hall's seats, which numbered almost 1,000, already occupied. Dang. 700 to 800 people, like martial artists, in a hall is a crazy number. A diverse assortment of sects had come. Not only were these small sects and clans like Feixian Gate and Qingyang Mountain Estate, but there were also organizations that hovered between first and second rate, like Jiuhua Sect and Qixia Sword Sect. Though the prominent Confucian and Buddhist sects such as Linchuan Academy and Tiantai Sect failed to show up, judging by the current situation, things weren't bad at all. Xiao Qiying and Shen Qiao took their respective seats. Xiao Qiying whispered, "With Li Qingyu's aptitude, he will definitely take first place today. Should Abbot Yi propose an alliance then, he'll be able to reap large gains with minimal effort." Shen Qiao nodded, as he thought the same. Yi Chen walked over, surrounded by his disciples. He first greeted everyone with some niceties, then said loudly, "Thank you all for taking the time to attend the Sword Trial Conference, which is held every 10 years. This time, Liu Li Palace has borrowed my humble monastery to use as the venue. Chunyang Monastery is deeply honored. I hope that everyone here can get to know each other through martial arts, but take care not to overdo it, lest we damage the amity between us." Li Chen's voice was warm and gentle, neither loud nor soft, but as he used internal energy to transmit it, everyone in attendance could hear him with perfect clarity. Man, that skill would be amazing. After speaking, he withdrew half a step and introduced a purple-garbed woman beside him to the crowd. "This is Yuan Xiao from Liu Li Palace, or Yuan Yangzi." Many people had heard of Liu Li Palace, yet they'd never seen any of its members in person. Now they saw that the renowned Liu Li Palace had sent a woman to serve as the judge of the Sword Trial Conference. They were all stunned into silence and couldn't help but reveal expressions of skepticism. Sexist assholes. "Abbot Yi, we're not trying to embarrass you, but the Sword Trial Conference is held only once every 10 years, and everyone in the Jianghu is eagerly awaiting its rankings. Now, not only is it being held early, but they've only sent a single woman. Not only does this show their contempt for us, it also demonstrates their disrespect towards you." "That's right! Could Liu Li Palace be afraid of Yihuan sect and the Buddhist discipline's influence? That's why they sent only a single weak woman to deceive us." "Precisely! If that's the case, what point does this Sword Trial Conference even have? Might as well just head home and sleep." With one person serving as the lead, the rest naturally followed suit. Give the lady some respect, right? Doubts soon arose all around them, and the situation grew unstable. The Chunyang Monastery disciples couldn't help their anxious expressions as they looked to their Shifu. Oh, just give it a sec. She's gonna totally hold her own. Give her a sec. "Your name is Wei Gao Fei from Feixian Gate. You specialize in the saber, and you achieved the height of proficiency in a set of Feixian Gate techniques called the Inverted Heavenly Void." The woman in purple standing next to Yi Chen suddenly began to speak, her voice ringing out like clinking jade and echoing in the main hall. Though crisp and pleasant, it was cold and devoid of any emotion, let alone any signs of anger and injustice that might have arisen at being questioned. Yeah, insulting the judge isn't a good idea. The young man who'd started the questioning was startled for a moment, then countered, "That's right. So what?" Yuan Xiao continued, "But your saber techniques contain a fatal flaw, or rather a hurdle that you failed to overcome no matter what. So you are unable to bring into play the true essence of your saber techniques. This is the reason you lose to Qi Wei from Longmen Sect last time." Wei Gaofei's face paled in shock. How did you know about this?" Yuan Xiao paid him no heed and instead continued idly. "The saber discipline known as inverted heavenly void demands speed, ruthlessness, and precision, but your wrist isn't nimble enough, so you're unable to achieve that kind of speed. No matter how skilled you are in wielding the saber, you will never become one with it." At this moment, Wei Gaofei could no longer concern himself with how she knew of his shortcomings. He hastily asked, "Then, how may I ask if there's a solution? Then may I ask if there's a solution?" "There is," Yuan Zixiao replied. "Since your body is the limiting factor preventing you from reaching the pinnacle demanded by inverted heavenly void, why persist in pushing yourself down a dead end? It would be better to switch to your sect's other set of saber techniques, the Jade's Glow, which focuses on the slow and steady and an effortless execution." Yep, no, she hits him with facts. Best way to put down naysayers, hit them with facts. "With your aptitude, it won't be difficult for you to achieve great things there." Effortless execution, effortless execution," Wei Gaofei mumbled, a thoughtful cast to his face as a myriad of expressions passed across it. Suddenly, he let out a loud cry and bowed deeply to Yuan Zixiao. "Oh, thank you for your guidance! No words can express my gratitude for your great kindness. I will definitely repay you someday." She gives me Wenqing vibes. That super smart intelligence, super cool lady vibes. Don't fuck with me. With that, he stood, ignoring the others, and quickly left the hall. No matter how his martial brothers called out from behind him, he didn't look back. Seeing his behavior, the onlookers understood that he might have comprehended something from Yuan Zixiao's words. Martial artists occasionally experience flashes of inspiration, allowing them to break through a bottleneck. No one was surprised at this. Rather, they were envious. Yuan Zixiao continued to expose the backgrounds, weaknesses, and flaws in the martial arts of several other people, all of whom had just voiced doubts. Now that they were being exposed one by one, their faces also shifted greatly. At this moment, everyone understood just how formidable Liu Li Palace was, and they were terrified that Yuan Zixiao would also reveal martial weaknesses, allowing their opponents insight into their flaws before they'd even begin competing. Naturally, no one dared to make a sound. Xiao Qiying whispered, "What a formidable woman! Liu Li Palace's reputation is well deserved. I trust that she'd know the shortcomings of Bixia Sect's martial arts as well." There was a hint of fear in her voice. Shen Qiao smiled. "All things beneath the heavens have two sides, yin and yang. Where there are strengths, there will be weaknesses. Even the most brilliant of martial arts have flaws. Her ability to expose each and every one is indeed incredible, but just because someone knows the flaw doesn't mean they'll be able to exploit it. The greater your martial arts are, the fewer weaknesses they'll have. Therefore, instead of taking the trouble to remember the weaknesses of others, it's better to improve your own abilities. When you reach the stage of perfect, unobstructed harmony, others will naturally be left with no chances to exploit them." Xiao Qiying nodded. "Spoken like a true grandmaster. I cannot compare." On the other end of the hall, Yi Pichen saw that Yuan Xiao could hold her own, and so said nothing to intervene. Only once everyone quieted down did he speak. Since you all have no objections, let us continue according to the rules. As his words fell, the Chunyang monastery disciples rang the jade chimes. The clear sound traveled far, indicating the official start of the sword trial conference. Or wait, I have better chimes. There we go. The first battle was between the Wang families Wang Sunlong and Shou Yishui. As this pair had come into conflict earlier, when they met on the field, both looked at each other with displeasure. However, Shou Yishui was clearly not Wang Sunlong's match. In fact, the result had already been decided before they even began. Though Xiao Qiying thought this was a shame, there was nothing she could do. It was possible that the revitalization of Bixia Sect depended completely on her. Today, she'd made up her mind to enter the competition, but the question of which match to enter depended on her potential opponents. If her opponent was too unskilled, there would be no glory to it, even if she had won. Shou Yishui was an unyielding young maiden. Though she knew the outcome, she refused to surrender without a fight. She still wielded her sword and faced Wang Sunlong. Blades glinted and flashed as they fought, making for an exciting scene, if only temporarily. The venue was so spacious that in order to save time, another two pairs had their match at the same time. Shen Qiao was among that pair, and her opponent was Jiu Hua Sect's personal disciple. They were the same age and both rising stars. The battle between the two was even more exciting than that of Zhao Yishui and Wang Sunlong, so most of the crowd's attention was on them. They watched with rapt attention while silently sighing over how the Jianghu's talents were like waves pushing forth, the new supplanting the old. At this moment, a Chunyang monastery disciple came down the mountain with another person behind him. Upon seeing that person's face from afar, Shen Qiao couldn't help but shift slightly. It was clear that he was both extraordinarily surprised as well as deeply shaken. Sitting beside him, Xiao Qiying couldn't help noticing his shock. What is it? And that is where we're ending for this week. Haha. I didn't end on the other cliffhanger, but I did on this one. Haha. That's okay. Next week will come soon. And Esper Lady, I don't know if you were here for this, but we actually will be finishing this book next week. And we'll be moving on to the final book the week after. This one only has 5 parts to it. It's one of the shorter ones. So it's kind of exciting. We're getting close to the end. This author just loves their cliffhangers. What can I say? Of course, Momars Rover. Thank you for coming. But yeah, thank you to everyone who watched tonight, as well as everyone who watches this later. I hope you enjoyed. I know I did. Hopefully my voice will be back to normal next week for all of our sakes. It's been interesting having a different voice for this, but I want my old one back. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye, everybody.